All right, let's talk about one of the creepiest stories to ever come out of the internet. We're diving into the legend of an object so famous, so supposedly evil, that it inspired a huge Hollywood horror movie and got the title of the most haunted object in the world. We're talking about the Dybbuk Box. We've all heard stories about haunted houses, right? Places that are stuck in one spot. But what about a haunted object? Something small enough to carry, a curse that can be shipped from one person to the next. Now that's a whole different kind of terrifying, and it's the idea behind one of the most powerful legends the internet has ever created. So to really understand this whole story, we have to start with the name. What in the world is a Dybbuk? Okay, so the word itself actually comes from the Hebrew word for to cling, and that's exactly what a Dybbuk is supposed to do. In folklore, it's the soul of a dead person that can't move on, so it latches on, it clings to a living person and possesses them. And here's the really important part. Traditionally, they possess people, not things. And that right there is the million-dollar question that kicks this entire saga into gear. The whole legend of the Dybbuk Box hangs on this one very specific and pretty much unheard of idea. This brings us to where the story actually begins. And it's not some ancient scroll or dusty old book. Nope. This ghost story was born in one of the weirdest places imaginable, eBay. So back in 2003, this listing pops up for a plain little wine cabinet. But the description? Whoa, it was something else. The seller, a guy named Kevin Manis, tells this absolutely chilling story. He says the box once belonged to a Holocaust survivor who had somehow managed to trap a demon, a Dybbuk, inside it. And her last warning to her family was simple: never, ever, ever open the box. And what he supposedly found inside, it's just so bizarre. I mean, look at this stuff. A couple of old pennies, 2 different locks of hair, a little goblet, a rosebud. It's this strange collection that feels just weird enough to be real, you know? It adds to the whole mystery of it. But Manis wasn't just selling a box with a cool story. He claimed he was selling a literal curse. He laid out this horrifying list of things that had happened. His employee had a violent breakdown. He gave the box to his own mother as a gift, and she immediately had a stroke. Later, the only thing she could communicate was 2 words: hate gift. He said everyone who had it had the same nightmare and started seeing shadowy figures. So he puts it up for sale, and the story just explodes. It gets sold to a college student who almost immediately puts it back on eBay, claiming his hair was falling out and he was seeing shadows. With every new owner, the story got bigger, scarier, and more detailed. It became a living, breathing internet legend. So how exactly does a spooky eBay listing become a full-blown pop culture phenomenon? Well, let's track its journey from the internet to Hollywood. Okay, so in 2004, the box ends up with a guy named Jason Haxton, who happened to be a museum director. And this gave the story a whole new feeling of legitimacy. He gathered all the different stories and put them on one website. And that's when it went from being this niche internet thing to a global urban legend. See this number? $82.9 million. That's how much money the 2012 horror movie The Possession made worldwide. Yep, Hollywood came knocking, and the Dybbuk Box officially became a movie star. The legend was now totally cemented in pop culture. And the story was so convincing, it even got to the people making the movie. The producer, a horror legend himself, Sam Raimi, refused to even have the real box on set. He said the stories genuinely terrified him. So where is the box now? Well, today, it's the main attraction at a haunted museum in Las Vegas, sitting inside a glass case. Thousands of people go to see it every year, and they even make you sign a waiver before you can go in the room with it. So obviously, with a story this massive, some people were going to start digging. And well, what they found? It changes everything. And this, right here, just lays it all out. The story was that it's an ancient cabinet from Poland. The reality? It's a 1950s minibar made in New York. The story said it came from a Holocaust survivor. The reality? It came from an attorney's yard sale. One by one, every single piece of the legend started to fall apart. And the one person who knew the real truth, the person who held the final thread, was the guy who started it all in the first place, Kevin Manis. The first big sign that something was up came in 2015. On social media, Manis basically threw down this challenge. He dared anyone to find a single mention of a Dybbuk box anywhere in history before his original eBay post. And guess what? Nobody could.
And then, in a 2021 interview, he just laid it all out. He admitted everything. He made the whole thing up, the story, the contents, all of it. He said his goal was to create a modern myth, an interactive horror story that could play out in real time online.
So how did he do it? The recipe was actually pretty simple, but brilliant. First, he found a normal, boring object. Then he added his own spooky details, like carving Hebrew letters on the back and stuffing it with weird little trinkets. Then he wrote an incredible, emotional backstory. And finally, he just set it loose on the internet and let people's imaginations do the rest of the work. Which really brings us to the biggest question of all. Even after the creator himself came out and said, hey guys, it's all fake, the box is still in a museum, people still line up to see it, its current owner insists that no matter where it came from, it's definitely evil. So why does the legend refuse to die? Maybe it just proves that sometimes a really, really good story is just more powerful than the truth.